I despised my life growing up. Those slums are vile places. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. Welcome back. So I set about studying, to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole. And to eventually become a communications officer. I admire your determination. Then you decided to try to sell government secrets? Why? Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. Even now, years later, the nightmares of my life in the slums wake me in the small hours. I wanted to drown them out, with more money than anyone who lived in that squalor could ever imagine. And one day I met him. Mr. Magnus McGilded. You're a fiend with acquired talent, so you are. I have money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need do is go along with my little plan now. Nothing shady here. I was to steal the Ministry's telegraphic message logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. As I was responsible for inspections of the Ministry's communications office, it was a simple enough task. The lure of the devil's offerings. How easy it is to succumb. But you must surely have realized the seriousness of the crime you were committing. And for that reason, I took great lengths to ensure that my actions were untraceable. By using the music box. My father was a brickmaker. My mother divorced him when I was still a child. Yes, Mr. Mason Milverton. That's right. He was very skilled with his hands. He'd once been a music box maker's apprentice. I imagined his skills would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. So I sought out my father again, to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I left the slums 10 years earlier. Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you've become, eh? He was a different man to the one in my memory. A thin, frail old man. But poverty had never broken him, never corrupted him like it had me. I was sure that he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason. So I made up a story. I've got some work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made. Music box discs, eh? A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell to the public. I've brought the score with me. There are 2, actually. I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though. Fetch my tools, would you? They're in the loft. That's how I had him make the 2 discs. Thereby splitting the information in 2. You were taking considerable precautions indeed. It was to protect myself as much as anything. It meant that I could deal with McGilded in 2 separate transactions. First involved the first of the 2 discs in the music box for playing them. I exchanged them with McGilded for 10 guineas. Then, on receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas. So, what happened at the omnibus 2 months ago? Did he find out that... Was the second part of a deal? The exchange of the second disc? Like, the terrifying thought in my head is that McGilded somehow found out where he got the music boxes from and tried to use that connection to get the other disc from him without paying 1,000 guineas? Yes. I'd sold the man information that way a number of times already, but it seems he became reluctant to part with his money. Well, that doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. For why was it that on the omnibus 2 months ago? Your father, Mr. Milverton, was the one dealing with Mr. McGilded and not yourself. When I received 1,000 guineas after my first completed dealings with McGilded, I decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. Oh. My father realized something was amiss. In time, he worked out that I must be involved in something dubious. And when he did, he said to me, "Next time there's an exchange, you let your old man do it, understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore." Even now, he wanted to look out for his son. After all this time, that was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb into the omnibus, hand over the second disc, and take the money from McGilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the discs that I'd asked him to make. He never knew. Just like I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I know is that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home. Shit. It was only then that I found out what sort of a monster McGilded really was. So after 10 years of not once uttering it, I swore on my father's name. To exact revenge. Revenge? As anyone with even the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine, McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. The crime scene was tampered with, evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish. My feet had barely touched British soil back then. And I walked into that hornet's nest completely unaware of the sinister background to it all. I'd made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then, so I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. If you're willing to pay the price, there are people in this city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself had shown me that. Are you saying that? I think you have the picture now. After he twisted everything to his favor in this courtroom to ensure that he walked free, I took matters into my own hands, delivered the justice that monster deserved. Well, shit. That tragic accident following the trial here 2 months ago was planned and executed by yours truly. McGilded's death that day was caused by this man. Everything is ready, sir. If you'd like to follow me into the courtroom. What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe. I hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There were some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. It is time for the inspection. They're going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. So that policeman who came to tell McGilded... he could examine the omnibus again. That's right. An imposter, hired by me. McGilded used his wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. So I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside. and set him on a one-way journey to hell. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death. A spine-chilling account indeed. That wasn't the end of it for me. There was a loose end, you see. And that brings us into this case. So in theory, Graydon's revenge was wrapped up after Case 3. A loose end? Yes, I should think it's obvious. The second disc, which my father had taken to exchange with McGilded. Ah, yes. There was indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago. Clearly because it had been removed from the scene of the crime. When I realized it was missing, I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded. This is the first of the 2 discs, and the music box you need to play them. Well, look at that now. What an ingenious little invention. So then, as promised, 10 guineas for you, young man. What's this? Winterbank's pawnbroker, eh? Aye, 'tis a pawnbroker's ticket, so it is. You can use it to redeem an article I've deposited there for you. There's no need to give a name. Just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend the watchword. I put a jewel in pawn for you. It'll fetch a good 10 guineas if you sell it, so it will. I've never heard of a pawnbroker being used in quite that way before. Have you not, Mr. Graydon? London's pawnbrokeries are very useful places, you know. Each one is like an extremely secure vault. That got him on the topic of pawnbrokeries. Intriguing. So I knew that if he'd taken steps to hide the disc, it would be in that pawnbrokery somewhere. That on the night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone. Yes, to Gina. I remember now, that when we first met you at Winterbank that afternoon, 2 days ago, you had a description of Miss Lestrade written down. How did you know who you were looking for? From the trial. That pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. Oops, Naruhodo goes. I realized immediately that she was another of McGilded's pawns, that he must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced it would be her who had the ticket. So I started to make some inquiries. I had a strong suspicion the girl would come out of the woodwork on the redemption deadline. He was absolutely right. And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was wait until the girl went to Winterbank's to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGilded's overcoat and the one disc that was in its pocket. The all-important music box with the second disc inside was missing. Because it had already been forfeited 2 days earlier. But I was unaware of that fact. Had I not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion. Meanwhile, as our investigation into the stolen government secrets was progressing, we'd picked up on the fact that McGilded was involved. Inspector, you recovered fast. My orders were to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible. We started gathering the fella's possessions and examining whatever we could lay our hands on. We had a full-scale investigation going on at the yard, but we had to keep it as quiet as we could. Then, when the inspector here took the disc from me in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. I was sure the music box and the second disc were still there in the shop somewhere. So I knew that it was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did. So that's what prompted you to break into that place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers. What happened that night in the pawnbrokery? I can only describe as a nightmare. A Nash and Ringo were searching the counter. I located the music box I had sold to McGilded on the shelves of forfeited articles. And the second disc was inside. Yes, I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. But then, something entirely unexpected happened. What are you doing in my shop? Oof. A gunshot rang out in the shop and I felt a sharp pain in my left arm. The broker fired his gun and the bullet pierced your limb. Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, I decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case. Before I knew what was happening, I had fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I hadn't intended to fire in his direction, much less kill him. But unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back as he fled through the storeroom door for refuge. A sorry, sorry tale. It all took place in the blink of an eye. I don't imagine Nash and Ringo even realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, so I fled. And that's the whole story. That's everything that happened at Winterbanks on that wretched night. Shit. Earlier, you called McGilded a monster. A man who used his wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. Are you about to say what I was kind of thinking to myself, Van Zeeks? That in getting your revenge on McGilded being a monster, you've become quite the monster yourself, in many ways. You've let your own influence try and get you out of justice for your own actions. What tragic irony. For what you have done is exactly the same. You've become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply, McGilded. Yes, I think I have. And just like that, he admits it, no argument, no protest, or no collapse. Well, this has been a long and exhausting trial. However, it would seem that at last we have arrived at the truth. Dr. Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon? He's been restrained, my lord, and is being escorted to the yard. He'll be charged with the murder of Mr. Winterbank and the stealing of government secrets. Very good. And you, Inspector. Regrettably, you will have to face charges yourself. Yes, my lord. Of course. It transpires that you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. That fact remains, whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime's a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable. Now the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Yeah? It is time for the final adjudication. Is the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Yes, sir. Guide up squadron standing by, sir. This is really it now. The last push, the final call, the finishing whistle. My men are ready to deliver their verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We now declare your final decisions to the court.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty. Nope. Fucking love that. Just headbutt the button. Good job, Doc. That's the stuff. I'm off the hook. Finally, Runo, you managed to do it. Finally is the word. Really wasn't sure if we'd come out on top for a while there. Susie was right. You're the best lawyer in the world. Mr. Lestrade, I'm not finished with you yet. Oh, what? What are you looking at me like that for? Before you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider. Hmm? 2 months ago, in my courtroom no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? In relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Winterbank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted to abscond with Mr. McGilded's property, it seems. I never done nothing of the sort! Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing McGilded's coat in your cell yesterday or anything. Oh, just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Ginny this evening. And turning our attention to the defense. Determining that, when played together, music box discs contained a message in Morse code was... Well, that was certainly a most unexpected revelation, counsel. And now you're under arrest for openly displaying government secrets. Go directly to jail, Mr. Naruhodo. Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast. To demanding that government secrets be disseminated before the entire courtroom. Very sorry about that. It was the only way that I could get Inspector Gregson to admit what he'd done. So... If I may say something on that point. Isn't that... It's, about the sounds produced by the music box before. I do wonder if that was really Morse code at all. What? What are you saying, madam? Oh, well, just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much so that the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to me, in fact. Goodness, madam, an unhealthy level of obsession one feels. But I must say that in my opinion, the sounds produced by those two discs were nothing more than that, a meaningless series of two different tones. What? What? Can that really be? It wasn't Morse code after all? Either that or she's putting in a good word for us. Slap. My lord, the defense would like to listen to the music box again. Are you off your nut? How many times do I have to tell you those discs contain ministerial secrets, sunshine? This courtroom is not an appropriate forum to discuss the nature of the government communications. We know McGilded conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies. Secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Or maybe he did kinda... Either juror number 5's trying to save our asses, or Mr. Graydon didn't actually steal secrets and just put together nonsense discs to fool McGilded. Now that the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further. It's really going to bother me. Whatever the case was here, Iris seems to know. And doesn't want to tell us in open court so we don't get in further trouble. Mr. Lestrade. Yeah, my lord? That which you have seen today here in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing. Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalogue of depravity. An appalling experience to befall any child. Come on, it ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums. Beg your pardon? If you're weak, you pay for it. That's just how life goes. Gina. But, look. I reckon I've worked something out today. World ain't fair. If you wanted to change... Gotta start at home. Gotta change how you are yourself. Well, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say. I eagerly look forward to the born-again Miss Lestrade never gracing my courtroom with her presence again. At least not in the defendant's chair. Maybe. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pop Windebank, proprietor of a pawnbrokery business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not guilty. Gina, no! Gina, how'd you get that in the defendant's chair? That is all. Court is adjourned. Oh? Last chalice of the day. On a personal note, I must say you've surprised me, my Far Eastern friend. Oh! Despite being a Nipponese, you saw through the pretense to the malice that festered within that Englishman. At the same time, saw through the grime to the surprising heart of your English client. You have a curious talent for judging character, especially considering our very different cultures. I don't think there's anything curious about it. Whether we're from the Empire of Great Britain or the Empire of Japan, we're all human beings. We're not so very different on the inside. You know, I took this case for one very simple reason. To lock swords with you once again, here in the courtroom. You did? When I encountered you for the first time 2 months ago, it reminded me of toasting friendship and trust with another Nipponese. They define my trust betrayed. Through you, I hope to look into the eyes of the man I once knew, and try to understand. You mentioned something similar earlier today, about total betrayal at the hands of the Japanese. What happened exactly? Well, you may ask. And one day, when the time comes, you will learn the answer, whether you like it or not. Alright. Then I'll wait for that day if I must. Insert the Frodo Baggins meme. Alright then, keep your secrets. Coming to be known as the Reaper of the Bailey, and my retirement from service 5 years ago, gives me cause to wonder if our meeting has some deeper purpose. So, farewell, my learned Nipponese fellow. Until we meet again. Ooh, who hurt you like this, Vanzeeks? Perhaps we'll find out someday. It's done. It's over at last. But where's Iris disappeared to? Hi, Gina. Congratulations, Gina. I knew it all along. I knew that you were innocent. Well, I did what you said, Mr. Naruhodo. You believed in me, right up to the end. You as odd as your name. What's odd about it? I told you I had faith in you, did I? No one ever has before, see? Kept a promise. I mean, properly. That's awful. I figured something out today. All my life, growing up in the slums, never trusted no one. That's just because I've been scared of being stabbed in the back. I mean, the more you trust someone, the more it hurts when they let you down. Yeah, I think I can understand that. After all, I had a taste of it in that trial 2 months ago. I chose to trust someone and paid for it. The betrayal left a big scar. You know, though, Gina, I worked something out quite recently, too. Trusting in someone else is really an exercise in learning to trust yourself. When your gut tells you it's the right thing to do, and your trust is rewarded, there's no better feeling in the world. I think I have you to thank for reminding me of that valuable lesson. You were worthy of my trust, unlike McGill did. And we kept our promise to Gina, unlike everyone else in her life. Up to that point. Oh, well, if you say so. Don't make a fat lot of sense to me, though. I'm trying to say that putting my faith in you, Gina, has been a real pleasure. Huh? For crying out loud, pack it in! But I suppose I sort of feel the same way. I mean, sometimes trusting someone else is, you know, alright. Thanks. This is the way I see it, Ryunosuke. Sogi, an offense lawyer is only as good as his faith in his client. And that comes down to how much faith he has in himself. Really, we had to rebuild that. After this experience, I'm starting to feel like I understand what you meant. Kazuma, am I living up to your expectations? Am I turning out to be the lawyer you believed I could be? Pardon the interruption. Huh? What the deuce does a man have to do to be noticed around here, my dear fellow? That voice! It's too late for that voice now, Mr. Naruhodo. I've been standing here patiently in the corner of the room for an eternity. Ah, yes, it was me all along. Would have said when you finally noticed me. But you people, with your incessant babbling, we're having a moment here, Sholmes. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Ah ha ha, yes, that was me all along. You see? I'd assumed you'd been taken back to the hospital, to be honest. Indeed I was, but I managed to escape again. Oh. I happen to be aware of one or two foibles of the doctor who was tending to me. I merely made my knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily issued me with a leave of absence. How very above board. But enough of my adventures. It was a fine victory, Mr. Naruhodo. Your tireless efforts justly rewarded, I feel. Congratulations, Oanor. As a close friend, I tip my hat at you. Thank you. Some great detective you are. Good at being cold as ice, maybe. Have I irked you in some way, Miss Lestrade? We've been having a snooze in your nice soft bed. Some of us have been fighting for our lives. Ah, well, that bullet did cause me to lose a substantial amount of blood, it's true. So I have indeed been feeling somewhat cold. Not perhaps as cold as ice, but, well, have a feel. Could you take your hands off my neck, please, Mr. Sholmes? You're wearing gloves, too, so I can only feel your fingertips. And in some way, I suppose. Congratulations are in order for you, too, Miss Lestrade. What's that supposed to mean? Why so half-hearted? Well, naturally, it isn't my intention to alarm you, but an acquittal in a trial with that particular prosecutor is perhaps a little precarious. Well done, Mr. Sholmes. No alarming in the slightest. Oh, the Reaper, you mean? So anyone who's found not guilty in a trial he was working on winds up dead anyway? Is that it? The very point I was trying to make. It's exemplified by the fate of Mr. McGilded, in fact. Ah, but of course, I pay no attention to such irrational drivel myself. Yeah, well, don't bother me. Oh, really? Of course not. The way I see it, the Reaper's a bit like him upstairs. Him upstairs? You mean, like, God? Yeah, him upstairs knows what's what, right? He knows what people are like on the inside. They would have got the wrong end of the stick. There's some cubs like that bog trotter would have rotten to the core. At the end of the day, him upstairs make sure they get what they deserve. I suppose that's one way of looking at it. You could say karma's bitch. Divine justice is one thing, though. Reaper taking matters into his own hands and claiming lies is another. Did we just forget that Graydon admitted to arranging for the death of McGilded? And not Ben Zeeks? Well, I ain't like the McGildeds of this world, so I ain't scared. I got principles, see? Did we seriously forget that fact? That Graydon killed McGilded? A trait in you which is to be admired, Miss Lestrade. Oi, just give a rest, all right? As I was saying, congratulations are in order. News of your acquittal was very welcome news to me indeed. Let me express my heartfelt congratulations, Gina. Well, there you are. Hurley, how long have you been here? I just love his fucking collapsing. I love his fucking punch-out knockdown animation. It's so good. You could just insert the punch-out NES theme. NES knockdown sound effect to that. It would fit perfectly. Honestly, I went to the main entrance especially to meet you there. Ah, Iris, my dear, I do apologize. But wait until I tell you what happened. This pair made utter fools of themselves. What happened? As you know, I have a penchant for disguise. I was hiding in this room dressed as a bailiff. But these dolts didn't notice my presence at all. They had no idea. Can you imagine, Iris? Would you credit it? I'm not sure, really. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Early, but you just don't have the weighty presence you seem to think you have. In fact, you really ought to be careful about that. It's going to land you in trouble one day. I'll be careful. Ow. Anyway, it's such a shame. I was so hoping to throw a party for Ginny tonight. But you won't be able to come, will you? Don't look like I'm going to be going nowhere for a while. Here are the judge's patter. Got stuff to make amends for, apparently. All of them offences. What was again? Breaking and entering. Taking the bog trotter stuff what was in lug. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think you'll find that basically being a pickpocket is the main offense. But diving ain't an offense. It's a job, innit? I don't think so. Still, it has got me thinking all this. Maybe I should start looking for another line of work. I mean, you didn't start off as a lawyer, did you, Odo? Well, no. But I was never a pickpocket. Anyway, I reckon I could make a change. I'm gonna do something for all them lot like me, from the slums. Something that makes a difference for them. It's a wonderful idea, Ginny. I'm sure you can do it. What is it? Oh. Nothing.
Miss Gina Lestrade. Prison carriage has arrived, ma'am. Come with me to the rear gate at once.
Right. Well, looks like I'm off then. Yeah. Goodbye, Gina. And good luck. Um, Odo? Yeah? Uh, uh, eh?
Ah! What was that for?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to say, so... Ah, indeed. Perhaps the situation calls for a phrase hitherto missing from your vocabulary, Mr. Strahd. Eh? On occasions such as this, I would recommend a simple thank you. Oh. Oh, yes. That's good advice, Ginny. Right. I see. Well... Ah! A hat. Thanks, Odo. Oh. Oh! Gina! Thank you for everything, what you've done, for believing in me. Oh, not at all. In fact, that should be my line. Thank you, Gina. Oh, sweet child. I'm so glad. Well, there she goes. I wonder if I'll ever see her again. Well, well. Quite the indomitable pick purse. Oh, I nearly forgot. I bought a paper outside. It's a special edition, and this trial is all over the front page. Pickpocket's innocence proven. Isn't it wonderful? You should have shown it to Gina, Iris. She would have been thrilled. Oh no, how silly of me. But anyway, would you like the good news or the bad news?
Again.
Well, what do you say, Bruno? Hurley? As usual, I think I'd rather get the bad news out of the way first. Absolutely not. I have no intention of listening to anything but good news. And there you have it. How people answer that question says a lot about them, doesn't it? Let's not go there. Alright then, maybe let's start with the good news this time. The rain has finally stopped. There's a record level of rainfall, apparently. Well, that is good news indeed. We can journey back in greater comfort. Alright then, what's the bad news? That huge storm has left the seas very choppy. The channel in particular is awful, so sailings out of Dover have been delayed by a day or more. Wait, Dover? That's right. If you head to the station immediately, you may still make it in time to wave Susie off. But... It won't be a train, surely. We couldn't be that lucky. Who do you think I am, Mr. Naruhodo? Mr. Sholmes? I rushed to Victoria Station earlier and made arrangements for a special express. If we hurry now, we shall be there in time for dinner. And I know of a fine restaurant that serves the most delicious baked sole. I don't... The great detective does it again! Indeed he does. Yeah, stroke my ego more, Mr. Naruhodo. I happen to be aware of a number of the rail transport director's foibles. What a word, foibles. What? I merely made my knowledge of them known to the man, and he happily laid on the locomotive. Elementary. Just an idea, but maybe it might be wise to stop manipulating people that way. What are you waiting for, then? To London, Victoria. Let's go. "5:32 a.m. That took somewhat longer than I had anticipated. Susie's boat must be about to leave now. Miss Susato, where are you? Ah! Over there, look! Looks like she's reading something.
Hold it!
Miss Susato, wait, what are you doing? Mr. Naruhodo? What are you doing here? Came as soon as we could after the trial. I mean, heard that sailings were being delayed due to the bad weather, you see. I see. Then, tell me, how did Gina's trial go? It went well. She was acquitted. Oh, that's wonderful. Really wonderful news. Susie. The book you were about to throw into the sea was your Encyclopedia of British Law, wasn't it? Oh dear. I was hoping you hadn't seen that. I'm not worthy of practicing law in any way now. So, I was saying my final farewell. You were saying goodbye to law? You? Suzato-san? Would I be correct in assuming it's because of the peephole, Miss Suzato? I deliberately altered the scene of a crime, and then I tried to hide the fact. What I did is utterly unforgivable. That reminds me. How did you even come to have this, Susie? The evening of the incident, Mr. Sholmes had invited Gina to dinner, if you remember. Oh yes, we had a wonderful time. Well, Gina gave us a little introductory lesson, didn't she? To the art of pickpocketing, I mean. Oh, that was so much fun. I still ruin his armband. Yes, please don't do that again, Iris. That band's very important to me. Well, if it's so important, you should pay more attention to it. You didn't notice for ages. On a whim, I thought it would be fun to see if I could take the cat flapper mat. So I put it at my sleeve. Really? Then I rather forgot about it. Till I found myself in Mr. Winterbank's shop with it later that night. I see. Some hefty sleeves. And then... Ah! Mr. Sholmes! Mr. Sholmes! Leave me, Mr. Naruhodo. You can even hear the glass shatter after the gunshot. Cluing you into the fact that it didn't actually strike him directly, it struck his belt. After Mr. Naruhodo had left the shop, I started to think. That door started to play on my mind. The storeroom door, you mean? Yes. If Gina was anywhere in the shop, I realized it could only be behind that door. At that moment, the little device that I had at my sleeve sprang to mind. I was so worried about Gina, I simply had to know. So you used the cat flapper-mat to make the peephole in the door. As captured in a photographic print of the shop. By one of Hurley's red-handed recorders. Indeed, it was of the first importance, that point. Precisely when the peephole was made, information would prove to be Mr. Naruhodo's greatest weapon. Though naturally without proof it would have amounted to nothing. I looked through the hole in the door. The sight that met my eyes made my blood run cold. Thoughts started to run through my mind. I remembered that that trial 2 months earlier, the trial of Magnus McGilded. I thought about how he had manipulated the evidence and arranged false testimony to secure his freedom. It made the British justice system feel very dark and sinister to me. And then a terrible thought occurred to me. What if some wicked criminal was planning to do the same thing now? Eh? Because from the appearance of the crime scene, it looked exactly as though Gina had shot Mr. Winterbank. Though I was sure she would never have done such a thing. You're worried that the true culprit would try to frame her for the crime? That's right. Then I realized. It would be very difficult for anyone to give false testimony in this case. What do you mean? Well, the crime appeared to have happened behind the door of a locked room. For someone to claim falsely to have witnessed it, there would have to be a way to see beyond the door. Oh. For which a peephole would be the very thing. Only the peephole I had made wasn't actually there until after the crime had been committed, of course. And the criminal would know that, so it wouldn't make any difference. But the possibility of a rather ingenious trap was there, was it not? A trap? Is that why she did it? So, is that why you kept it a secret, Susie? You never mentioned that you made the peephole to anyone, not even to the police. I know. I knew at the time what I was doing was wrong. A criminal offense, even. That's why I decided to confide in Mr. Sholmes. Mr. Naruhodo was completely backed into a corner. No other possible means of escape. Truth about the people could save him. That was my plan. She really does think of everything. But then... Why didn't you just tell me everything before the trial began? My dear fellow, you're not thinking straight. If she had done that, it would have rendered you complicit in the whole escapade. Ah. You could have been disbarred if you had been seen to have knowingly tampered with a crime scene. So Miss Susato decided to shoulder the burden of responsibility alone. For your sake, and Miss Lestrade's. Miss Susato. The truth is, what had happened, I did it because I had lost a little of my faith in the law. Oh. I was worried that the right person wouldn't be convicted of the crime. At the moment I allowed myself to think that you already lost. This moment I lost my right to call myself a judicial assistant. What you did isn't comparable to what he did. Graydon is the one who lied in the witness stand, using that peephole as a way to implicate Gina. Besides, if the peephole inconsistency hadn't existed, I'm not at all sure that she would have been acquitted in the end. Miss Susato, what you did saved Gina's life. With your kind words, Mr. Naruhodo, you've saved me, too, from my regrets. Oh. Well, we must all be thankful that Miss Lestrade's freedom has been assured. Yes, exactly. Though some of the loose ends of that trial will continue to play in my mind, I'm sure. The revelation that the music box disc contains secret messages, Mr. Naruhodo. What a triumph to work that out! I'm full of admiration. Oh, well, actually, that argument wasn't quite as compelling as I thought it was. Oh, it wasn't? There's a communications officer among the jury members, you see. A telegraph operator. And she said that the majority of the sounds on the disc were just meaningless tones. As one would expect. After all, we are talking about secret government communications. Oh, they're encrypted. No doubt they were written in cipher to avoid being readily understood, since they would have been intercepted. In cipher? I see. So then we could never have hoped to understand the message anyway. Nonsense, my dear fellow. It's quite a zero-pipe problem, I assure you. A. So. Key. What? What? Well, that can't be a real word, can it? How funny. Wait! Iris, what did you just say? Oh, I just said asogi. Does that word mean something to you? Mean something? It means everything. Asogi was the name of my best friend. What? But how? How do you know that name, Iris? I wrote it down during the trial before, when the message was playing on the music box. She transcribed it on the fly? She really is a genius. I thought the message probably would be written out in plain Morse code, so I tried various ways to interpret it. But whatever I tried, the words just didn't seem to make any sense. That is, in English at least. Oh. Something occurred to me, you see. There's more than one Morse code, not just the English variety. Various countries around the world have altered and added to Morse code to use it in their own languages. I don't believe it. Are you saying? That's right. I've only actually seen a chart of Japanese Morse code once before. I think it's based on the Iroha pangram, isn't it? And you mean to say that in Japanese Morse code, the message says Asogi? Containing each character of the Japanese syllabary exactly once. So the Iroha is a poem. Interesting. And a pangram, a sentence using every letter of a given alphabet at least once. Interesting. Was it just in Japanese Morse code, or was it encrypted using that Iroha pangram? And you mean to say that in Japanese Morse code the message says Asogi? Yes, I think so. Sorry, but I don't remember all of the Japanese Morse code. Iris, would you let me see that? Miss Suzato, do you know it? Do you know Japanese Morse code? Yes, I spent some time studying it. Because I'm quite sure Morse code will become ever more important for international communications. Then might I recommend, my dear madam, that you focus your efforts on the English version? Get. Shut up, Holmes. And as it may. Iris, show me the message, please. Of course. But what can this possibly mean? Whatever's in that long sequence of supposedly meaningless dots and dashes. It's made the color drain from Suzato-san's face. There's no doubt that this message is written in Japanese Morse code. So the British Empire has been using Japanese for its secret communications? I don't understand the reason why, but the message appears to be a list of 4 people's names. 4 names. The first is Kei Asogi. Kazuma Asogi. Why? Why was his name on that disc? The second is A. Shin. Shin? I don't recognize that name. The third is T. Gregson. Gregson? Ah, but it seemed Tobias Gregson is the third man on the list. What's his name doing in a secret government communication as well? Man, he would be chuffed to learn that. And the last name. Oh? What's the matter, Miss Suzato? It's just so strange. So unexpected. Oh? What is it, Susie? Don't keep us in suspense. The last name is J. Wilson. What? Wilson? John H. Wilson? You mean Daddy? says only J. Wilson, so I'm afraid I can't be sure. Then, after the 4 names, it reads, I translate from Japanese. That is all 4. And that's the end of the message. Rather, the end of what you noted down, Iris. I just can't believe it. Who would ever have thought? And those discs contain Japanese Morse code. Not to mention a strange list of some disturbingly familiar names. It would appear that this particular message is a communication of some kind between Great Britain and the Empire of Japan. So, Daddy could be in Japan then, where Susie and Runo come from. I'm afraid I've got some bad news, Iris. Oh, well. No, it's not very likely, really, is it? I mean, there are thousands of people with the surname Wilson, and there must be lots of J's among them. Exhale slowly, we don't have to explain. Professor John H. Wilson, visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. We can't tell Iris about that now. We just can't. This is so strange. Somehow in solving the case of Mr. Winterbank's murder today, I feel like I've rolled back a boulder at the mountain of a very dark cave. I do wonder if perhaps it's a dark cave that we shouldn't go wandering inside. Oh dear, ship is going to set sail soon. Yes, it seems so. I'll sail on that steamship first to the port of Dunkirk in France. And I'll change onto a larger passenger vessel bound for Japan. You're really going then, Susie? We wish you a safe passage, Miss Susato. Thank you so much. I wish all of you the very best. Miss Susato, I had hoped to have you always at my side, to guide me and support me. Mr. Naruhodo, please, come back soon. As far as I'm concerned, you really are the very best judicial assistant in the world. Oh. I'm quite sure I'll be back before you know it. Really, Susie? Oh, now don't forget, Iris. I made you a promise I have yet to fulfill. A promise? About your manuscript. Oh, yeah. The Hound of the Baskervilles. Thank you for mentioning that. I was going to bring that up in the threads that leading into the next game. But I'll be waiting for you then, Susie. A promise is a promise. Definitely, Iris. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes? Do you remember the first time we met? Yes, of course. On the SS Buria, when I was dragged out from that wardrobe, still half asleep. If I remember rightly, you threw me halfway across the cabin with a Susato takedown. Now, you know very well what I'm talking about. That I'm talking about after that. It's strange, but being thrown together as we were in that case, I somehow felt straight away. You were the perfect person to continue Kazuma-sama's great legacy. Miss Susato. My instincts were right. I really want to believe. No, I'm sure that. I'll be back soon. Farewell until then. Susie!
Somehow we seem to have come to the end of the adventures of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Or the first volume, at least. Looking back now, it feels as though fate has led me on this journey.
Wagahai!
Fate led me to becoming a lawyer, to traveling halfway around the world, to meeting the great detective. I'm sure there'll be trials and tribulations ahead. Of course there will. But whatever happens, I know I'll be able to turn my fortunes around. After all, I have the greatest friends in the world on my side.
You've got that right. Thank you, Mr. Shulms, for playing the soundtrack to this beautiful scene. Live and in person. Eh? Ah, yes. Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, Mr. Shulms? I have some rather awkward news. The railway company has decided to sue over the special express train, apparently. Huh? It caused such a commotion on the line. All the other trains had to wait at stations. But really, we would never have made it to Dover in time otherwise. Anyway, I explained everything and how it was all your fault. Huh? Huh? I believe a formal complaint should be delivered to your office tomorrow. But not to worry, my dear fellow. According to Miss Susato, you love defending yourself in court. Of course we need a setup for that. It's an ace attorney game. We can't not end it without this setup. We can't not end it without a you-know-what. It's all right. I'm perfectly happy to testify. He really didn't look like the sort of man who would do something so outrageous. See? Mr. Shulms? Yes? A word, if you don't mind. Why, certainly. Any word you like. Bellow it out, my dear fellow. Oh, yes. I love Runo's words. And I know just the one he'll use here. Thank you for the set. It's beautiful. I really must say...
Objection!
Sir! Slap. Bam! Oh. That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. In the following weeks, hundreds of music boxes arrived at Baker Street from all over Europe. I forgot I ordered all of them. Something was afoot. Though transpired I'd ordered them all myself. So I advertised them for sale with, used by Mr. Shulms to solve an important case. For the money I've earned, consulting detective work pays a pittance by comparison. Music box racketeering business. Good job, Shulms. Oh? Iris? I haven't slept a wink. This manuscript is due tomorrow now. When I'm this busy, Herda usually cooks me breakfast. Well, cooks is an overstatement, with some dry toast and insipid coffee. I do miss Susie at her lovely Japanese breakfasts. Oh, Iris. Oh, the music in this game is fantastic. Oh, no, you... Witness, your testimony is riddled with contradictions. Exactly. Rarely do rare Koban coins hide under rare stakes themselves. Well, I don't know, sir. Knows his father's an innocent man. While you calling my son a liar. This is my court, is no place for your petty arguments. God, it's been a while since we've seen those four. Brosanaga, having delivered the Russian dancer to shore in Shanghai, I laid low in the steamship for a while. But last night I apprehended an extremely suspicious Japanese national on board. Ah! I've done nothing wrong! Like to give Wagahai's offspring a refuge in my pocket. Man brings some kittens on board and suddenly he's a hardened criminal. It's not fair. Osaki. Oh, he just wanted to go home. Give him a break, Osanaga. He's had a rough time. Thank you for having his tears being fully animated. Scientific investigation will be the gold standard for policing in the new age. I dream of a world governed by the tenets of order and discipline. Like a great clock, in fact, whose hundreds of parts mesh together in perfect unison. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have but 2 minutes and 37 seconds until my next appointment. I suppose there are still questions about you, Strongheart. We have no reason to ask them. Gregsy?
His latest Rants magazine is out, and I'm in it again. Whenever I say that one line she wrote now, I get a standing ovation. Wanna hear it? Not bad, I suppose. For an amateur.
Look. Standing ovation, Gregson.
Ah, ladyship puts me to shame.
He did really think he was acting in the best interest of the country in making that deal on the stand. Seemingly no choice. Manipulation.
Been visiting the old girl on a daily basis, of course. Joni, my old jailbird. Must say, battling with the bally stares every day has done wonders for the dicky pig. Matching rather well with the housework, too. With this maid business taped up, I'd say. Hope the gossiping neighbors don't realize this man of the house is just his own maid.
Oh, John. Gotta work on that maid kink of yours. Oh no, these two.
My Rolly's back on the beat again. All thanks to the Reaper. There's nothing I enjoy more these days than hunting out small change in the gutter. I'm a better Bobby now, looking out for Londoners. They're dropped pennies in my lovely wife. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
Hopefully you get some sleep now, my boy. Because my god. He's got a little bandage on the top of his helmet, I just noticed that. Hi, Gina.
Looks like I'm gonna be doing time for a bit now. Iris comes every day for a natter, so it ain't too boring. He's always going on about all them cases what Sholmes is looking into. Criminal investigations are kinda interesting when you get into them.
Aha. Is this a sign of things to come? There's one plot beat I remember from the sequel game here. Yes, I renounced my upbringings and chose a life of sophisticated crime. But regrets? Please.
Ah, get over, bruv. I ain't the Ash we used to know. We got time in here to plan the comeback of militant Skulkin's Mulgrut, right?
Okay. The Three Musketeers. Milking the neighborhood for all it's worth. What a strange trio. I love them. A trio of oddballs here. Susie?
This past 6 months has been a time I shall remember forevermore. Painful goodbyes and wonderful encounters. I've come to realize that's what life is all about. Naruhodo-san, I promise. Your assistant will return to you one day. But for now, I leave you with many memories and a heartfelt wish that life will treat you well.
Oh. A letter? Oh, like that. Wagahai. Going for the hat. Susie, Iris, and Mr. Sholmes. Being an adorable doofus. Love them. Oh. Oh. The end of our story for now. What a ride that was. And that last... Oh. There are many things to say. I don't know if I can put them all into words properly, but... We essentially spent the first 3 cases getting acclimated to the move from Japan to London. We got everything that we set in motion here. Covers quite the scope of time. Covers Naruhodo defending himself in the opening case, getting a crash course in lawyering from Asogi, getting this emotional and legal support from Asogi. Then the 2 best friends sneaking on board the SS Buria, sneaking Naruhodo on board the SS Buria. Oh, it's a plot progression. We leave Asogi behind as he's killed in the start of Case 2, Chapter 2. Oh. I do hope she turns out alright. We join up with Suzato and agree to continue Asogi's legacy. Yeah, I was going to try and review the ground we're covering here, but it seems like it's our own inline review down below. We lost Asogi, but we picked up his legacy. With the support of the Suzato, after proving our own innocence in Case 2, we come to London. And what are we immediately thrust into? A suspicious case where not everything is like it seems. And we're approaching this as a pure-hearted newbie defense lawyer, while there's plenty of suspicious actions underfoot, thanks to Mr. McGilded. Case 1, we get a crash course in being a lawyer from Asogi. Case 2, we take on the task of becoming a lawyer ourselves to carry on the legacy of Asogi. Case 3, we're introduced to the British legal system and a darkness at the heart of it, where it can easily be manipulated by smooth words and putting pressure on the right people. And Case 4 is essentially Mr. Naruhodo's picking himself back up again. As Asogi said, faith in your client comes from the faith in yourself. And Naruhodo had lost that after Case 3, after the trial of McGilded. Now, he had to find that in himself before he took Soseki-san's case. In Case 5, he truly came into his own in extending that faith to Gina. Essentially, earning her trust by putting his trust unfailingly in her. So even if it seems like 5 cases covered a lot of time, and we only really spent maybe 2 cases in London, if you want to count Case 3 being in London, despite us only being there for a day, or less than a day. Covered a lot of ground, but still feel like we got a strong character arc for Naruhodo. in this series of cases. The Greatest Attorney Adventures. Being... He said the adventures of Ryunosuke Naruhodo conclude, for now. Oh! Fleeting Farewell. Well, that's a really cool piece of art. It's really cool. Oh! Now let's poke around here. I think now... Yeah, now we can use our special costumes. Show them the Japanese jumble mix. Oh yeah. I'm definitely using Iris's costume for Naruhodo when we go into the second game. I'll let you vote if you want to use. Let you decide if you want to use Susato's original outfit or her Iris outfit. Oh no, they're both cool. Oh, show them the Japanese jumble mix or a normal outfit. We're definitely using Naruhodo's outfit because I love this outfit. Let's see. Oh boy. Got a series of escapades here, which I might put into a whole... Let's see, are these all for... I do wonder if these are all first game, or if some of the timelines of these extend into the second game. So maybe I'll save them for the very end of the second game. Moving pictures. Oh boy. Well, there's a lot here. Oh gosh. What sort of achievements have we gotten? Okay, so this is... Ace Attorney 2, Resolve. Escapades, all available outfits. Oh, every domain about ladders and step ladders. Okay, first cross-examination. First press. Medical report card. Milliner is responsible for the victim's hat. Oh, that was an extra bit of, Oh! Oh, we got an achievement for, like, Irene Adler reference. Oh, I remember that. I remember that conversation, too. That was an optional press conversation. Oh, that's neat. New idea on Iris' blackboard. Oh no, that has to be an optional thing during the Skulkins, because I see Skulkins here. Photo frustrator. Oh gosh, there's lots of these here. The argument about shovels and spades, everything about ladders. Oh, there's a lot of cute extra conversations here. But we're gonna call it from here. Yeah, hell, just for... Really... we have the running. This case was a huge part in tying together a lot of plot threads that start in Case 3. And tying it together really neatly. Which, in terms of overall plot for the next game, left us with some very juicy threads. The Hound of the Baskervilles, what's that all about? How does Susato know about that? The communications back and forth with Japan. The Japanese fellow who betrayed Van Zeek's trust in such a way to turn him into a angry racist against all Japanese. We have Asogi's name, John Wilson's name, we have Asogi, John Wilson, Gregson, and that fourth name on the communication list going between Japan and Great Britain. We have Susato being called back to Japan for reasons related to her father. We have a lot to look forward to in Resolve, the second part of the Chronicles. Really, for a plot that started in Case 3 and ended in an epic final chapter, that really just extended over 2 episodes. And covered a lot of game time. And really, the whole McGilded plot and influence on this story really, I feel like, wove together with Naruhodo's character growth. Coming to Japan, coming to London, having his impression of practicing law broken down by McGilded, and slowly piecing it back together, and uncovering all of the painful truths of McGilded. Being better than the system that clearly manipulated him on his arrival. Plot came together beautifully from Case 3 to Case 5, but the bigger picture is Naruhodo's character arc, I feel like. And that also came together really neatly here. So, curious to see. Well, I know a decent bit about the second game, but still, I hope you enjoyed this series. And after a short break from this series, we'll for reasons some of you probably already know, for a short break from The Greatest Attorney, we'll return with Resolve. Until next time, until then, thanks for watching, as always.